This happened 8 years ago. I was 22 and new to the city for my job as a graphic designer. I felt excited about my first online date with a woman named Jenna. We picked a trendy downtown restaurant, the kind with dim lighting and a cool vibe. I still remember how I sat at the same table now, waiting for my current partner, but something felt weird that I glanced around, and that's when I saw her. Jenna. The same piercing eyes locked onto mine from a corner table. My heart raced. I couldn't look away. Was it just a coincidence? I felt a chill creep up my spine. As I tried to enjoy my meal, I kept stealing glances at her. It felt like she was watching me, and I couldn't shake that feeling. My fork clinked softly against the plate. My stomach twisted as I remembered how she and I had spoken that night. She would pause just before I spoke, like she knew my thoughts. I chewed my food slowly, imagining that uncomfortable tension. The waiter buzzed between tables, but I noticed how he approached her. He seemed nervous. When she ordered, it felt like she had some kind of power over him. I thought I was just being sensitive back then, but now it felt different. I remembered how everyone else there had seemed distant, like they were all in on some secret. Then, I recalled that moment. Jenna got quiet, really quiet. I asked if everything was okay, but she didn't answer right away. She gave me that same look, and for a split second I felt exposed. It was like she could see right through me. Panic rose in my chest, and suddenly, I felt cold. Like winter air rushed in. I checked her table again, but it was empty. I started to sweat, anxious that I had stirred up something by coming back. My phone lay on the table, and I waited for a text from my partner. I kept glancing at the door, but my eyes kept drifting back to the corner. That's when I heard it. A whisper, faint and chilling, brushed past me. "Why did you come back?" I turned my head, but nobody was there. My heart thudded in my chest. I felt a wave of panic. What if that night was not just a strange coincidence? I took a deep breath and forced my gaze away from the empty table. My mind reeled with the unease I felt then, the lingering thoughts of that date. Had Jenna ever really left? I tried to tell myself it was just my imagination, but doubts gnawed at me. A moment later, the waiter returned, and I realized I was actually gripping the table. I forced a shaky smile as he asked if I wanted to order dessert. I shook my head, feeling like I was still being watched. My palms were sweaty. Everything felt wrong. Would I turn around again and find Jenna sitting there? I didn't know. Would I ever know? I felt the weight of the room press in on me as I tried to keep my composure. My partner was late, which only intensified my nervousness. I glanced at the entrance again, half expecting Jenna to appear, but it was just strangers moving past, their laughter echoing in a way that felt jarring. Suddenly, my phone buzzed. I snatched it up, desperate for any distraction. It was a text from my partner saying she was stuck in traffic and would be another 20 minutes. I sighed, then glanced back toward Jenna's former corner. It was still empty, but as I turned, I caught a glimpse of something else. A man was sitting 2 tables down, scribbling notes on a notepad. He wore a dark jacket and thick glasses, and his attention seemed fixed on me. My stomach dropped as I realized he was watching me watch the empty table. A chill went down my spine. Why hadn't I noticed him before? As I tried to shake off the feeling, I distracted myself with the menu. My hand trembled slightly as I traced the options. But every few seconds, I couldn't help but glance back at the man. He was still writing, but the angle of his head was just low enough that I couldn't see his eyes properly. Was he here for me? There was something unsettling about him. I couldn't put my finger on it, but he seemed almost too focused, or too curious. My heart raced again. Was he connected to Jenna? Did he have something to do with that night? I wanted to call my partner and tell her to come immediately, but I couldn't. I didn't want to look weak. My anxieties should stay hidden. Then I caught a shadow moving in the periphery. It was that same woman again. No, not Jenna. This one had a different hairstyle and clothes. But when I focused on her, I saw the same piercing eyes. I gasped as I remembered the way Jenna could just look at me and make me feel like my thoughts were an open book. This woman shared that same quality. My skin prickled with discomfort that I blinked hard, trying to clear my thoughts. What was happening? I was losing touch with reality. The man's pen scratched loudly against the notepad. Everyone else seemed like ghosts. The warmth of the restaurant felt oppressive now. I fiddled with my napkin and looked again at the stranger with the glasses. He stared back at me, unyielding, as if waiting for something to happen. That S when I noticed it. On his notepad, a name was written in shaky letters, my name. My breath hitched. How did he know? Panic shot through me. I jumped to my feet, knocking my chair over. I didn't care. I needed to get out of there. I looked back at the strange woman, and her eyes bore into mine, locking me in place. Why did you come back? She whispered. My heart sank, and all I could think was that I had to leave. I bolted for the door, but the man was already standing in my path, the notepad in hand. Couldn't he breathe? I needed answers, but I was frozen, trapped between my past and whatever was happening now. I stood there, heart racing, eyes darting between the man blocking my way and the woman with the unnerving gaze. Panic surged through me again. I didn't even think. I just reacted. I lunged to my left, trying to squeeze past him. Wait, he called after me, his voice deep and determined. I ignored him, pushing toward the door. I heard a chair scrape behind me, followed by hurried footsteps too close for my comfort. As I burst into the cool night air, I could feel the warmth of the restaurant dissipating, that charged atmosphere of confusion and fear being replaced by an overwhelming sense of urgency. I didn't look back. I dashed down the sidewalk, ignoring the chill. The city felt alien. I glanced over my shoulder, expecting to see anyone from the restaurant following me. But the street was empty, just a darkened alley branching off to my right. My breathing was erratic, the rush of adrenaline making my legs feel lighter as I moved forward. I pulled out my phone, ready to call my partner, but stopped myself short. What would I say? Hey, I'm being followed by a strange man and woman from the restaurant? My throat tightened with doubt. Instead, I just typed a quick message, asking her to meet me at the cafe down the block. That I continued walking, trying to put distance between me and that place, the strange people. My mind raced with questions. Who were they? And what did they want? I couldn't shake the feeling they knew something about me, something I wasn't ready to face. Then a memory struck me, Jenna's laugh that night at the cafe. How warm and inviting the atmosphere felt before. Pushed it away. What did it matter now? I was lost in the present. I could have sworn I heard footsteps behind me again. I quickened my pace. Finally, I reached the cafe where I hoped my partner would be waiting. I took a deep breath as I pushed through the door, scanning the room for a familiar face. But my heart sank. The place was empty except for a few late-night patrons. The barista glanced at me, probably sizing me up, but offered no comfort. Just as I turned to leave, my phone buzzed in my pocket. It was another text from my partner. I'm running late. Can you wait? I cursed under my breath. I didn't have the luxury of waiting. A small voice in my head urged me to find a safe spot until she arrived. That's when I spotted a table in the far corner, half hidden in shadows. Felt oddly inviting. I sat down, trying to calm my racing heart. But just as I settled in, I saw something flash in the corner of my eye. A figure stepped into view, thick glasses, dark jacket. The man from the restaurant. My breath hitched. He was right outside the door, looking around like he was searching for someone. Then he caught my eye. In that moment, the cafe faded away, the bustling world silenced. I was frozen, my fingers trembling over my phone. I couldn't breathe as I realized neither was my only option anymore. I was back in a world of memories that haunted me. The past never really left. It just hid, waiting to resurface when I least expected it. The man started walking in my direction. I had to think fast. I needed a plan. I needed to escape. But where would I go? My mind raced as I considered my next move. The cafe's bland decor felt like a trap, and I was suffocating in the silence. I had to get out. The door was just behind him, and I could dart past if I timed it right. But there was something about the way he looked at me, the mix of intensity and curiosity that rooted me to my seat. I glanced toward the far side of the cafe. A service door stood slightly ajar, a flicker of light escaping from the narrow gap. It could lead to the back alley or a storage room. Anything was better than being stuck here. Maybe I could make it there without being seen. The man was still scanning the room, but I didn't have much longer before he de-spot me. I took a breath and got to my feet, trying to remain calm. Each step felt heavy, as if I were moving through thick water, but I forced myself towards the service door, eyes fixed straight ahead as I neared it. I caught a glimpse of the woman with the unnerving gaze stepping through the entrance of the cafe. My heart dropped. She was with him. Were they together? My instincts screamed to keep moving. I ducked through the service door just as she said something to him. Her voice barely audible from where I stood, and I found myself in a narrow hallway lined with boxes and old chairs. It smelled like stale coffee and something else I couldn't place. The muffled sounds of the cafe faded behind me, replaced by the thumping of my heart. I whispered to myself. I needed to find a way out. I crept forward, half expecting to hear footsteps approaching from the cafe. I paused, pressed against the wall, listening intently. The muted chatter of patrons was a blessing in disguise. It meant they hadn't noticed my departure yet. The hallway led to a small exit at the end. I could see the light of the street through the semi-transparent door. Hope surged within me, but just as I reached for the handle, I heard voices behind me. Where did she go? It was the man, his voice steady but laced with urgency. She must be somewhere in the back. My heart raced anew. I had to move. I burst through the door and stepped into the alley. The cold night air hit me like a slap, but I couldn't afford to hesitate. I took off down the alleyway, glancing back only once. They were right behind me. The moonlight illuminated the path ahead, giving me just enough visibility to keep running. My feet pounded against the pavement, each step echoing the frantic rhythm of my heart. I turned left at the corner, hoping to lose them in the maze of backstreets. Just as I passed a dumpster, I spotted a shadowy figure leaning against the wall, obscured by darkness. It was another man, hands in his pockets, observing me with a wary expression. My gut churned with fear. Stop, he called, and I hesitated, torn between danger. Was he friend or foe? Just then, I heard the shuffle behind me grow nearer. The man from the restaurant and the woman were coming. I had no choice. Please, help me, I gasped, fear spilling out. They're after me. His eyes widened, but instead of replying, he advanced towards me. Just as the sound of footsteps echoed in the alley, I realized I was running out of time and options. The man stepped closer, the shadows swallowing him whole. My instincts screamed at me to run, but I couldn't afford another misstep. Are you with them? I asked, my voice trembling. He shook his head but didn't answer. The footsteps grew louder, and I was acutely aware that time was slipping away. I could hear the urgency in their movements. They wouldn't hold back if they found me. Come with me, he said suddenly, grabbing my arm and pulling me further into the darkness. I had no choice but to trust him for now. My heart raced as he guided me through a narrow passageway, bordered by crumbling brick walls. Who are you? I managed to ask, my breath coming in sharp gasps as I tried to keep pace. I'm not your enemy, he replied, glancing over his shoulder. But you're in danger. They've been looking for you. His words sent chills down my spine. Why? What do they want from me? He hesitated for a moment before answering. I don't know. Just trust me. Trust was a luxury I couldn't afford. He led me into what looked like a small storage room, tacking a heavy curtain over the only window. My heart pounded in my chest as the darkness enveloped us. Stay quiet, he instructed, his voice low and urgent. As we pressed back against the wall, I strained to hear the steps of my pursuers. There was a faint rustling, and I saw shadows dance beneath the curtain. Where are they? The man's voice grew tense. They must be close. I nodded silently, my eyes glued to the sliver of space beneath the curtain. I had to stay calm. Closing my eyes, I tried to block out the panic rising within me. Then everything changed. The footsteps halted just outside the door, and I inhaled sharply. My lungs felt heavy with dread. Did they find us? I whispered, my voice barely audible. The man nodded grimly, pulling a small object from his pocket. It looked like a knife, but it was more than that. It gleamed ominously in the dim light, and I felt my heart drop further. "I need you to be brave," he said. "Whatever happens, don't scream. Just listen to me." Before I could respond, the door swung open with a sudden crash. A beam of light flooded the room, illuminating our hiding spot. I could see them. The man from the cafe and the woman, standing in the doorway, scanning the shadows. "Where is she?" the man demanded, his tone colder than the night air. I held my breath, pressing against the surface behind me. My mind was racing, trying to figure out our next move, but all I could think about was being found. "Now," the stranger said quietly, a grim determination in his eyes. I barely caught what he meant before he moved. Then everything went dark. I stumbled as I fell to the ground, the world around me fading into silence. Panic coursed through my veins. I had no idea where I was or what was happening. Just moments ago, I was hiding from two shadowy figures, and now I was enveloped in thick darkness that I blinked, trying to adjust. But all I could see was the faint outline of the man. He crouched beside me, his breath quick and sharp. I could feel the knife still in his hand, ready and alert. "Stay quiet," he whispered again, urgency in his voice. The cold air in the room seemed to thrum with the weight of uncertainty. The sounds of footsteps shifted outside, sharp and fluttering like frightened birds. "They're searching. They're going to find us if we stay put," he said, his voice low but strained. "We have to move." Before I could respond, he pulled me up by my arm and led me toward another exit. I followed, heart racing, fighting the instinct to resist. What choice did I really have? As we slipped out of the room and into the lifeless hallway, I could hear them talking in the distance. "She has to be around here somewhere." "Split up," the man commanded. A cold chill in his tone sent a wave of dread washing over me. They were getting closer. "Who are they?" I hissed as we crept past a doorway, the hinges creaking ever so slightly. "What do they want from me?" He didn't answer right away. "I'll explain later." His eyes darted, full of worry. We turned corner after corner, until we reached a staircase that seemed to spiral down forever. I glanced back, wondering if the figures would materialize behind us, but they stayed hidden. "Come on," the man urged, his grip tightening on my wrist. We descended hurriedly, every echo of our footsteps sounding like sirens in the quiet that my mind raced. Why was I in this mess? I couldn't shake the feeling that I should have left the cafe the moment I sensed something was off. Then I saw it. A flash of silver caught my eye as we reached the bottom. A reflection flickered in a dim light. My breath caught in my throat. "That's the way out," I murmured, pointing. But just as I spoke, the sound of footsteps rang louder above us, echoing ominously against the walls. "No, wait," he said, but it was too late. The figures were already moving down the stairs, shadows stretching like claws toward me. In that moment, I realized we weren't just running from threats. We were racing against something much darker, something tied to my past. "Follow me," he shouted, pulling me towards a door that swung open into a narrow passage. I could barely breathe. As I glanced back, I saw their faces were no longer obscured. A flicker of recognition surged through me. These weren't just strangers. I knew them from years ago. But if I was right, knowing them made the danger all the more terrifying. Just as we dove into the narrow passage, I heard a voice call out behind us, full of anger and intent. "You can't escape me again." And just like that, the darkness closed in once more. I stumbled through the narrow passage, my heart pounding against my ribs. The man yanked me onward, his steps quick but cautious. The air felt thick with tension. Behind us, shadows chased, but I couldn't let myself turn around. I had to focus on where we were headed. "Just keep moving," he urged, his voice barely above a whisper. I nodded, though dread pulled at my throat. Suddenly, the passage opened into a wider area, dimly lit by a few flickering bulbs hanging from the ceiling. My eyes darted around, searching for any signs of safety. "Where are we?" I managed to ask, trying to catch my breath. He glanced around before answering. "An old service tunnel. It'll take us away from them, but not for long." I couldn't shake the feeling that we were just prolonging the inevitable. What do they want with me? The memory of their faces from years ago twisted in my mind, feeding my fear. I had thought I'd left that life behind. Your past, he said, his voice now edged with bitterness. They want to collect what you owe. Before I could process this, a loud crash echoed from behind us. My pulse quickened. We need to hurry, I urged, fear creeping into my voice. We sprinted down the service tunnel, but I couldn't stop memories from surfacing. Moments from a first date, long-forgotten silly arguments, laughter over coffee, and the feeling of safety. Cut deep, reminding me of what I had lost. The figures chasing me seemed to drag those memories into the darkness, entwining the past with my present. Then I saw it. A door at the far end, slightly ajar. That one. I pointed, hope rekindling in my chest. But just as we reached for the handle, a loud bang sounded from behind us. The way we came in was blocked, now figures arriving, faces sharp and determined. My breath caught. Don't stop, he shouted, pushing the door open with urgency. I followed him through, barely thinking. The air shifted as we stumbled into another room. This one was filled with old crates and dust, a storage area that hadn't seen visitors in years. The darkness felt thicker here, suffocating. I turned to him, my voice shaking. What do we do now? We find a way to fight back. His expression was set, his resolve unwavering. But his hand shook ever so slightly, an indication of the fear I felt, too. That won't help us if they catch up. I scanned the room, searching for something we could use. The memories surged again, the laughter, the silly comments as I fumbled with my coffee cup on that date. Suddenly, a wild thought crossed my mind. What if this is before I could finish? The door shuddered violently as they pounded on it. We don't have time, he snapped, the knife gleaming as he positioned it defensively. That I looked around in desperation. When I spotted a figure emerging from the shadows, one I recognized. My heart sank. Why are you here? I gasped, breath hitching as recognition filled me with dread. Because, they said, stepping closer with a sinister smile, it's time to settle the score. And just like that, everything I thought I knew spiraled into chaos again. Couldn't breathe. The figure in front of me was someone I had tried to forget, an echo of a life that felt years away. You? I managed to whisper, disbelief taking over. Yes, me. They stepped further into the dim light, their face illuminated just enough to show the gleeful malice in their eyes. I didn't think you'd be so easy to find. The door behind us was still shaking from the forceful knocks. Time was running out, and my heart raced with fear, memories swirling in my head. I thought of our last meeting, the words unsaid, the bonds broken. I felt trapped, the walls of my past closing in, suffocating. Can't you just leave me alone? I pleaded, my voice rising a little in panic. What did they want now? I had moved on. I had rebuilt my life. Yet, there they stood, a ghost demanding payment. There's nowhere left to hide, they said, a cruel grin stretching across their lips. Your past is catching up to you, and I'm here to collect. The man beside me fidgeted with the knife, his grip tightening. Get ready, he said quietly, his eyes darting between me and the intruder. I knew he was preparing to fight, to protect me. But would it be enough? What do you even care? I snapped, anger replacing my fear. I've done everything I could to move on. Then you should have thought about that before, they taunted. The pounding on the door continued unabated, each crash signaling our imminent doom. I felt the weight of my choices press down on me. The laughter we shared, the secrets whispered, all of it boiling down to this moment of reckoning. I had tried to bury those memories, but like a bad dream, they haunted me. The figure suddenly lunged forward, their hand reaching for the knife. I froze, instinctively stepping back. My mind screamed at me to escape, but the only way out was blocked by the man I thought could help me. Step away, he shouted, moving to shield me. With a swift motion, he brandished the knife, an extension of his determination. You won, take her. But my past loomed larger than the knife. I felt a sense of resignation wash over me. This is insane, I whispered, glancing around the storage room. Not much here would help. Just then, I noticed a large crate behind me, slightly ajar. It was old and dusty. It hadn't been touched in years. "Wait," I shouted at the man. "Help me with that." I pointed to the crate, an idea forming. Together, we pushed it toward the door, blocking the path and buying us precious seconds. The stranger cursed, pacing like a caged animal. Frustration etched across their face. Then everything went sideways. As we pushed the crate, a loud crash sounded to our left. I turned just in time to see another figure emerging from the shadowy depths of the room. They rushed toward us, and I instinctively grabbed the nearest object, a rusty pipe lying beneath the dust. "Watch out," I yelled, raising it as if it could protect us from everything I had buried. The sight of that second attacker sent electric fear shooting through me. The room felt smaller, the darkness closing in. My past was not just haunting me. It was attacking that. I steeled myself and braced for what was about to happen. I swung the rusty pipe, adrenaline pumping through my veins. It connected with the second figure's arm, and they staggered back, cursing under their breath. The momentary victory filled me with a surge of courage, but it was short-lived. "Don't let them get away," the original figure shouted, lunging towards me. I turned just as they reached for the knife they had dropped. The man beside me gritted his teeth, prepared to strike again. "Get behind me. I've got this," he yelled. It should have reassured me, but something deep inside whispered it might not be enough. I ducked low as a knife flashed past my head, missing me by inches. My pulse thundered in my ears. A tangle of conflicting emotions surged within me. Fear, regret, and the nagging urge to flee from this nightmare. "Can't you see what they want?" I shouted, my voice cracking. "This isn't just about us anymore." The second attacker regained their composure and positioned themselves closer to their partner. "You can't hide forever," they screamed, brandishing another weapon. "You owe us, and we're here to collect." I wanted to scream back, to tell them they had no claim over my life, but the words shrank in my throat. The reality hit me like a wave. My past wasn't just haunting me. It was intent on dragging me back into its depths. "Now," the man beside me shouted again, and I didn't question it. Together, we pushed the crate further into position. The storage room was cramped, and with both figures closing in, we had to think fast. Just as we braced ourselves for another attack, a sudden flash of light exploded at the entrance. My heart soared momentarily. Was help arriving? But no, it was just a shadow passing through. Panic clawed at my throat. Then I noticed something shiny glinting through the darkness. I squinted hard, and my heart dropped. It was a set of keys. I recognized them. They belonged to someone I hoped wasn't involved in this mess. "Is that?" I started, but my voice faltered. Just as I reached for the keys, I felt a rush of movement behind me. The attacker was here again, hands outstretched, advancing toward me with the knife. I swung the pipe once more, but this time, they dodged, ducking low. I barely had time to register their movement when I felt a rough shove from behind. Everything went black for a moment as I stumbled forward. When I regained my footing, I turned in desperation, but I was too late. The intruder was already reaching for the keys. My breath caught. What would they do next? "Get away from them!" The man shouted fiercely, charging forward with the knife. But it was clear there was no stopping the oncoming storm. Then everything changed again. Someone threw open the door, and a beam of cold moonlight burst into the room. For a split second, I saw everything: the fear in our eyes, the danger right before us, and a third figure standing framed in the doorway. "Move!" they shouted, but before I could react, the room erupted into chaos. This wasn't just a fight for survival anymore. It was a battle against my entire past. And suddenly, I knew I had to choose. I stood in the chaos with my heart pounding so loud I thought it might burst. Everything that had been chasing me, all the fear and confusion, surged to the forefront. I now had a choice, a chance to break free once and for all. But which path to take? The figure blocking the door stepped into the room, a familiar silhouette. It was Alex, an old friend, someone I never thought I'd see again after our friendship had ended on fraught terms. What are you doing here? I blurted out, incredulity mingling with the sudden spark of hope. Move! Alex shouted again, urgency dripping from every word. The thrumming tension shifted, shadows threatening to swallow us. They can't know you're here. Before I could respond, Alex rushed past me and confronted the figures. You don't get to take her back. Their presence was undeniable, engulfing the small space. Leave now, and I won't make this harder for you. It was a precarious standoff, and I felt suspended in time. The intruders exchanged glances, their intent unreadable. Then the one holding the knife stepped closer, his voice dangerously low. You think you can protect her? You have no idea who you're dealing with. My heart raced as thoughts raced through my mind. Alex was here, which surely meant safety, but also old wounds begging to be reopened. I shifted slightly, hoping to find an escape or perhaps some newfound strength. But my feet felt glued to the ground, drowning in the past, affected by their presence just as much as my own nerves. Without warning, the second figure lunged forward, aiming directly for Alex. My instinct surged with a fierce impulse. I had to protect what was left of my past, to take charge. Grabbing the pipe I had swung earlier, I swung wildly at the approaching figure. Get away from them! I shouted, the words punctuated with desperation and resolve. The move was rash and fueled by fear, but for the first time, it felt like I was standing my ground. With that distraction, Alex turned just in time to dodge the knife, blocking the attack with a quick thrust of their own. In the chaos, I could sense the intensity building, the air crackling as energies clashed. Both of our old adversaries seemed thrown off balance. The moment was fleeting, a window of opportunity. Now, Alex urged, their voice cutting through the commotion. I nodded, adrenaline igniting a fire within me. Together, we shoved the heavy crate against the door, barricading it just in time as more frantic knocks resonated behind us. Where do we go? I gasped, scanning the room for any way to escape this nightmare. Our adversaries were regrouping just outside the door, and I had a terrible sense of urgency clawing at me. Alex moved to the far wall, revealing an old maintenance hatch I hadn't noticed before. Through here, they called. It was cramped and dark, but it promised an exit, a potential way to break free from everything that had been haunting you as we squeezed into the tunnel. I glanced back at the door. The faces of the figures still loomed large in my mind. What did they truly want? Would they ever stop searching for me, or was this a trial I would continue to face until I settled the debts of my past? Keep going, Alex urged. The tunnel was musty and constricted, filled with shadows that clung to my limbs like chains. I felt a mix of relief and anxiety, knowing I was moving away from danger, but uncertain of what lay ahead. The path twisted and turned, winding through the darkness. My thoughts danced around the edges of memories I wished to forget, but I kept trudging forward, propelled by the taste of freedom. What happens now? I asked breathlessly, glancing sideways at Alex, who pushed ahead determinedly. I don't know, Alex admitted, no bravado in their voice, just a clear understanding that the way out wasn't just about running. It would require facing what waited ahead. They paused, rummaging through their pocket. But whatever they want, whatever they think they still hold over you, it doesn't define you. You're free, but you have to make that choice for yourself. Their words echoed in the hollow of the tunnel. Did I want to really break free, to create my own path? Or was part of me still tethered to all the unresolved threads in my past? All those questions dangled in the air, unresolved, as we pushed deeper into the shadows that surrounded us. Suddenly, I heard the echo of footsteps fast, relentless, closing in behind us. Panic welled up, but Alex grabbed my arm and pulled me forward as the passage opened into a wide, moonlit space, a hidden courtyard, scattered between faded brick walls, a world away from my previous reality. We raced into the open, breaths mingling with the cool air. But even as we stood there, panting and overwhelmed, I felt the lingering weight of uncertainty, the shadows of the past not entirely shaking off. Questions clenched within me, keeping me tethered. What did they want? Would they return? I paused, looking back toward the tunnel, the sounds of their pursuit trailing off into whispers. Can we ever really leave it behind? I asked quietly, the fear coiling tightly in my gut. Alex squeezed my shoulder. Maybe not. But that doesn't mean we have to carry it alone. As I turned to the open sky, the moon shining bright above, I realized there would always be fragments of my past looming on the edges, waiting to draw me back. I didn't have all the answers, and perhaps I never would. But at least for now I was alive. The chase had ended, and while uncertainties lingered, the night pulsed with possibility. We made it out, but a part of me wondered if I would ever truly escape or if darkness and light were bound to coexist, intertwining as part of the story that was just beginning.